Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Felicia Perez, author. I am the author of my memoir. It is called My Unheard Voice by Felicia Perez. It's a book I wrote which details my 7 years of childhood sexual abuse. This is a continuation from my past two videos, which were all about chapter 4. This video is also about chapter 4. I'm not really sure why I remember these years the most, but I do. I'm not sure if it's because I was older and, I remember it more, or if it's because the abuse was worse, during these years. I'm not really sure why I remember it more. But the past two videos are all chapter 4. So in this video, it's going to be a hard subject to talk about, but it needs to be discussed. And the reason it needs to be discussed is because it happens so often. And not just with child victims, of course. It happens with adults. It happens with, children. It needs to be discussed because it's not a subject that we need to hide from. In this chapter, the subject is rape in this chapter, or in this video. So it's a continuance from chapter 4. So in this video, I was 11 years old, living with my mom back in town. And this day, my mother was working at nighttime. She was working at a nearby store at night, so I would stay at home with my stepdad. So this day, he asked me to go into his room. And I said no. I remember I said no. I rolled my eyes at him and I said, no, I'm not doing it. No. And I walked away and I went back into my room. Sometimes that was okay. He would, ignore me the rest of the day. He wouldn't pursue it, and, it was okay. This time it wasn't. I'm not really sure why this time it wasn't, but it just wasn't. I just saw the look on his face. I saw that he was angry. I saw the look in his eye that was a look like he had never given me before. And see, by this age, I'm more rebellious. I'm more defiant. And I'm beginning to fight back. I'm beginning to say no. Before, I never did that because I was always so scared of him. And I was still scared of him. But I was still, I was in those years. I was rebellious. I didn't care, if I made him mad or not. But, over the years, I knew that when I did make him mad, when I would tell him no, it was harder on me. He was physically harder on me. He would hurt me more on purpose. And on the days when I wouldn't tell him no, he was gentle. He tried, to be kind. He wouldn't be mean. But when I would tell him no, he was meaner. He would physically hurt me more than he would on the days when I was submissive. So on this day, I straight up told him no. I said, I'm not going to do it. I said no. And I went back to my room. That's when he opened the door to my room and he grabbed me by my arm. He pretty much dragged me into their bedroom and he threw me on the bed. And I remember looking at him, telling him, what are you doing? What are you doing? And, he yanked my clothes off. He yanked my shirt off and he got on top of me. I remember I was panicking. I couldn't breathe. I was freaking out. I didn't know what he was going to do because he had never done this before. He had done many things before, but this he hadn't done before. And I was scared. I was very scared. And he got on top of me. And he was so heavy. I remember him being so heavy. I was a kid. I was 11. I weighed probably 80 pounds tops. I was skinny. I was a kid. And he was well over 200. And I remember him being so heavy. I still have nightmares of him being so heavy. I have nightmares of being smothered by something so heavy on top of me. This day, he was on top of me. And I kept trying to get away. I kept trying to, push him off, but I couldn't. He was heavy. I physically was not strong enough. I remember telling him, please don't do this. Please don't do this. And, he told me, you're big enough now, aren't you? He said, you can handle this now, can't you? I remember him, those exact words. I remember him saying those exact words, saying, you can handle this now. You're not a baby anymore. And that's when he stuck his penis inside of me. I remember it hurt, because it had never hurt like that before, when he would stick his fingers inside of me. This time it hurt. And I don't know, I pulled myself back, because it hurt. And I was yelling at him to stop. And he didn't. He kept on. And after about, 3 or 4 times, after he inserted it in me, I pulled away underneath his arm, and I ran out of the room, panicking. I ran out of the room in tears and panicking. I remember I was tripping over my own feet. I ran into my bedroom. I got dressed as fast as I could, because I thought he was going to be right behind me and grab me again, which this time it would be worse. So I was putting on my clothes real quick, and I didn't even put my shoes on. I went next door to where my mother was working, and I was in a panic. I remember I walked in there crying. I was so scared. I was nervous. I couldn't catch my breath. And she asked me, she said, what happened? What's wrong? And I told her, nothing. I just had a bad dream. That's what I told her. I said, nothing. It was just a bad dream. I'm okay. So she hugged me, and she said, okay. And I asked her, can I stay here with you the rest of the night? I don't want to go home. I said, can I stay with you? And she said, yes, of course. So I did. I sat next to her the rest of the night. I never told her anything. But I sat there the whole night, and I felt safe knowing that I was there with her. And I was expecting him to come in and tell me to go home, but he never did. And when we did get home later that night, he was already in bed, so I didn't see him. And I never told my mother, until years later. But yeah, that was probably the most traumatizing abuse out of my childhood. And of course, a lot of it was traumatizing, but that was the worst. And I feel like it needed to be shared, because there are children right now that are getting raped, and the parents know nothing about it, because they hide it. And I hid it when I shouldn't have. I should have just told my mother, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I was too scared of what she would think. I was too scared of what she would say, and I was too scared of what would happen. So I kept quiet. Thank you for hearing my story. And if you have any comments, or if you would like to reach out to me, if you have any questions, please do. Thank you. Bye-bye.